metal gear is straight down. Better move it. There's no time. The terrorists are ready to launch.
Negotiations are all finished?
The government can't cave into terrorist demands.
But they're threatening to launch a nuclear weapon.
They've made their final decision.
Why is the White House being so inflexible? Colonel, is there still something you're hiding from me?
Snake, please. Just concentrate on stopping them, okay?
War brings out the cruelty of man. No matter how the soldier was brought up, they all turn into animals when they're thrust into the heat of combat.
If you take that cargo elevator down, you'll wind up in Metal Gear's underground maintenance base. It's automatically set to go back and forth between the blast furnace and the underground base. It's not there yet, so you'll just have to wait.
There he is! Oh!
Snake, I've got something to tell you about Naomi Hunter.
What about her?
Is this conversation secure?
Don't worry, the monitor's off.
Okay.
What's up?
I was in the FBI too, you know.
I didn't know that. What's your point?
Dr. Hunter's story about her background, about her grandfather being an assistant secretary to Hoover in the FBI.
Yeah?
And then going undercover to investigate the Mafia in New York.
Yeah, what about it?
It was all a big lie.
What did you say?
It was really bothering me. Why would she lie about it?
She lied?
She might be a spy.
Ridiculous.
Come on, even a high school student could see past it. The head of the FBI at that time, Edgar Hoover, he was a well-known racist. Didn't Naomi say that her father was Japanese?
Yeah?
Well, back then, there wasn't a single Asian investigator. Also, in the 1950s, the undercover Mafia sting operations hadn't even started yet. They first started in 1960, in Chicago, not New York.
But...
You better check it out. The chief and the president mysteriously dying, and that ninja? Too many strange things are happening.
are you saying that Naomi might be behind it?
I don't know. Either that, or she's working with the terrorists.
Could it be?
If I find out anything, I'll call. In the meantime, be careful.
We're not paying you to be a scarecrow, you know.
Oh, things. Ravens are God's creatures too, Snake.
Welcome, Cossack. This is the end of the road for you. Right, my friends? Listen, they agree. How dare you kill my friends? Ravens aren't scavengers like most people think. They're simply returning to the natural world, that which is no longer needed. Sometimes they even attack wounded foxes.
You were the one in the M1 tank? Must have been a tight fit for a big boy like you.
But that was no true battle. The Ravens and I were testing to see what kind of man you were. The judgment is decided. The Ravens say you are a true warrior.
Am I hallucinating? I can't move.
The Raven has put the mark of death upon you. Blood from the east flows within your veins. Ah, your ancestors too were raised on the barren plains of Mongolia. Inuit and Japanese are cousins to each other. We share many ancestors, you and I.
I don't have any crows in my family tree.
You jest, but indeed ravens and snakes are not the best of friends. Nevertheless, you will make a worthy adversary. You live in Alaska too. You know of the World Eskimo Indian Olympics?
Yeah, I know it. Must be a real threat in the muck-duck eating contest.
Yes, you are right. But there is another event that I excel at. It is called the Ear Pull. It is an event where two opponents pull each other's ears while enduring the harsh cold. It tests spiritual as well as physical strength.
You want to pull each other's ears?
The form is different, but the spirit is the same. Rejoice, Snake! Ours will be a glorious battle.
This isn't glorious. It's just plain killing. Violence isn't a sport.
Well, we'll see if there is iron in your words.
Vulcan Raven is half Native Alaskan American and half Inuit. He was raised as a shaman, and they say he has supernatural powers. During the Cold War, he trained in Russia with the Bimbov, the Soviet Special Forces. In 1993, he was demoted by President Yeltsin following his coup d'etat, so he fled the country and became a mercenary. After that, he joined those rent-a-war bastards at Outer Heaven, Inc. He stayed there until he joined us in Foxhound, thanks to a strong recommendation from Revolver Ocelot.
That cannon he's holding is a 20mm Vulcan gun. You usually see them mounted on fighter planes. You can't take him on in a firefight. He'll make mincemeat of you.
He's not just strong, Snake. He's a graduate emeritus from Alaska University, so he's a quick thinker, too.
In any case, you'd better not try to attack him from the front. Normal weapons are no match for his 20mm Vulcan. Try to attack him from the sides or behind.
That room is still under construction, because their main priority was to finish Metal Gear's underground base. But the good thing is, with all those containers, it should be easy to hide, right?
It looks like Raven is holding an M61A1 20mm multi-turreted machine gun. They are usually mounted on F-16s. With its 6 rotating turrets, it can fire 4,000 20mm rounds per minute. And it is accurate too. If you come at him from the front, he'll turn you into burst. Stay out of his way. You have to hide and attack. Try a remote-controlled missile or your C4 explosives.
That place is right in the middle of the permafrost. Just like the name says, it never melts. I've heard over 85% of Alaska is permafrost. It's extremely cold there, Snake. If you don't hurry, your sea rations will freeze. One way to prevent your sea rations from freezing is to hold them close to your body by equipping them.
Welcome, Cossack. Just as the boss said, it is my existence which is no longer needed in this world. But my body will not remain in this place. My spirit and my flesh will become one with the ravens. In that way, I will return to Mother Earth who bore me. Snake! I will be watching you. Understand? Snake, take this security card. It will open that door.
Why?
You are a snake which was not created by nature. You and the boss. You are from another world. A world that I do not wish to know. Go and do battle with him. I will be watching from above. First, I'll give you a hint. The man who you saw die before your eyes.
What is it?
That was not the Darker Chief. It was Decoy Octopus, a member of Foxhound. He was a master of disguise. He copied his subjects down to the blood. So he drained the Chief's blood and took it into himself. But he wasn't able to deceive the Angel of Death.
The Angel of Death? But why go to so much trouble? Why impersonate the Chief?
That is the end of my hint. You must solve the rest of the riddle yourself. Snake, in the natural world, there's no such thing as boundless slaughter. There's always an end to it. But you are different.
What are you trying to say?
The path you walk on has no end. Each step you take is paved with the corpses of your enemies. Their souls will haunt you forever. You shall have no peace. Hear me, Snake. My spirit will be watching you.
Snake, it's me.
Master.
It's about Naomi. Turn your monitor off.
What about Naomi?
Colonel, is Naomi there?
No, she's away. She's taking a short nap. So what is this about Naomi?
Okay, maybe we'd better let the Colonel hear this too.
Yeah. Go on, Master.
Well, basically, Dr. Naomi Hunter is not Dr. Naomi Hunter at all.
What?
I thought her story of her background sounded kind of fishy, so I checked it out.
And?
There is an actual Dr. Naomi Hunter, or I should say, there was one. But she's not the woman we know. The real Naomi Hunter disappeared somewhere in the Middle East. Our Naomi must have somehow obtained her identification papers.
So then who is she really?
She must be some kind of spy.
A spy?
Yes. Maybe she's been sent to sabotage this operation.
Are you saying she's with the terrorists?
I don't want to believe it either, but she is working for Foxhound.
So you think she had a part in the uprising?
Or she could be working with some different group altogether.
Different group? It couldn't be.
Place her under arrest.
What?
She's betrayed us. She needs to be arrested and interrogated to find out who she's with.
If she's one of their spies, then we're in big trouble.
What do you mean?
Oh, nothing.
Have you let her in on some kind of vital secret or something? Does this have anything to do with the mysterious deaths of the DARPA chief and the Arms Tech president?
I have no idea.
Anyway, we cannot allow her to participate any further in this mission.
Wait a minute. Without her, we can't complete this mission.
I knew it. You're hiding something.
Give me some time. I'll try to get it out of her.
Hurry then. We've got to figure out who she is and what she's doing here.
I understand. Snake, give me some time.
I don't have any time left for you. Naomi wasn't acting strangely or anything?
No, I just can't believe that Naomi's an enemy spy. I refuse to accept that.
I don't want to believe it either, but...
Don't say it, Snake.
Snake, if it's about Naomi, I'm looking into the matter right now. Give me a little more time.
Where is she?
She's still sleeping.
I can't believe it. First, the DARPA chief turns out to be an imposter, and now Naomi. What the hell is going on here? I suppose you're going to tell me you don't know anything, right?
I'm sorry, Snake.
A madman is threatening the world with a nuclear weapon. I guess that's what I should worry about now.
Snake, I'm sure that woman calling herself Naomi is some type of spy. And now I'm starting to think that Campbell might be hiding something too. Don't trust him.
I don't know anything about Dr. Naomi, so there's not much I can say. But Snake, I think you'd better leave that to Colonel Campbell. Don't you think you'd better just get to the control room?
That stuff that is flowing in those ditches on the first floor must be radioactive nuclear wastewater. You better stay away from it. You are already exposed enough just by being in that area. Any further exposure could be fatal. That place does not have a nuclear processing facility. It must be some other kind of nuclear material that is leaking, besides the dismantled nuclear warheads. Probably spent nuclear fuel or something.
It looks like they've finished getting Metal Gear ready.
How do you know that?
I overheard them talking. Where are you now?
Right in front of Metal Gear, but it's strange.
What is?
There's nobody here. No guards, nobody patrolling. It's too quiet.
Maybe because they're all ready. They said they even input the PAL codes.
What should I do?
All we can do is use the override system that President Baker told you about.
But I've only got one of the 3 keys, and besides that, like Ocelot said, there's some trick to using the keys.
Leave it to me.
You got some kind of plan?
Well, I'm in the computer room right now. I'm trying to access Baker's private files.
Baker's files? Don't you need a password?
Of course, but there are ways.
Are you a hacker?
Yep, that describes me pretty well.
Does it look like you can get in?
I don't know yet. I'll give it a try.
I'm counting on you.
Snake, stop that launch. Head for the control room in the underground base. The control room is on the 3rd floor of the underground base, isn't it? There's no time.
Anytime fuel is burned in a nuclear reactor, it will always produce, as a waste product, some spent fuel mixed with highly toxic radioactive compounds. Spent nuclear fuel stays radioactive for 300 years. In other words, this material will remain lethal for the next 3 centuries. There was a time when we thought it was safe to seal nuclear waste in special containers and bury it in a layer of rock salt without much exposure to underground water. Even though we now know there are big problems with that, we still do not have an effective disposal solution. Most of the nuclear waste we produce is just shoved underground with no intention of ever processing it. It is like an ostrich with its head in the sand. No. There is a process which involves mixing the nuclear waste with low-grade uranium to convert it into a mixed oxide fuel for burning in light water reactors, usually in the form of glass logs. But MOX contaminates a nuclear reactor more quickly than low-grade uranium. It is also highly toxic. It is economically unfeasible unless the price of uranium is more than 4 times what it currently is. Not only that, you cannot ignore the danger inherent in transporting the MOX from the processing factories to the nuclear reactors. An accident could lead to radioactive contamination, or the materials could be hijacked by terrorists. No, I do not think MOX could be called a viable solution to the problem of plutonium disposal. There is only one effective use for nuclear waste. Military applications. You see, after chemical reprocessing, they can separate plutonium from the nuclear waste. Nuclear weapons normally use military-grade plutonium-239 with a purity of 93 to 94%. It is made in special nuclear reactors designed for military applications. On the other hand, the plutonium in spent nuclear fuel only has a purity of about 60%. But that does not mean that spent nuclear fuel cannot be used for military applications. America has been successful in tests using weapons made from nuclear reactor-grade plutonium. That means that eventually, everyone will be able to make nuclear weapons from plutonium separated from spent nuclear fuel. Spent nuclear fuel can also be used to make depleted uranium bullets or shells. They are armor-piercing anti-tank rounds. DU is 2.5 times denser than steel and 50% denser than lead, so it makes it an extremely effective armor-piercing weapon. It can cut through tank armor like a hot knife through butter. Unfortunately, when a DU round explodes, it spreads a fine dust which, when absorbed into a body, supposedly causes terrible long-term health problems, including genetic damage. During the Gulf War, American as well as Iraqi soldiers were exposed to DU dust and suffered from radiation poisoning and other illnesses. The American government conducted research to discover whether exposure could lead to cancer or genetic damage, but the results were inconclusive. Some people think that this type of radioactive contamination is what is behind the Gulf War syndrome, but the government will not admit it. They are currently doing research to find ways to transform minor actinoids, such as americium and neptunium, which are highly toxic with long half-lives, into nuclear materials with short half-lives. It is called extinction processing, but it is not being used much due to all the technical and economical problems with it. A serious program for nuclear waste treatment has yet to be established. There was a time when we thought it was safe to seal nuclear waste in special containers and bury it in a layer of rock salt without much exposure to underground water. Even though we now know there are big problems with that, we still do not have an effective disposal solution. Most of the nuclear waste we produce is just shoved underground with no intention of ever processing it. It is like an ostrich with its head in the sand. No. Spent nuclear fuel can also be used to make depleted uranium bullets or shells. They are armor-piercing anti-tank rounds. DU is 2.5 times denser than steel and 50% denser than lead, so it makes it an extremely effective armor-piercing weapon. It can cut through tank armor like a hot knife through butter. Unfortunately, when a DU round explodes, it spreads a fine dust which, when absorbed into a body, supposedly causes terrible long-term health problems, including genetic damage. During the Gulf War, American as well as Iraqi soldiers were exposed to DU dust and suffered from radiation poisoning and other illnesses. The American government conducted research to discover whether exposure could lead to cancer or genetic damage, but the results were inconclusive. Some people think that this type of radioactive contamination is what is behind the Gulf War syndrome, but the government will not admit it. Spent nuclear fuel can also be used to make depleted uranium bullets or shells. They are armor-piercing anti-tank rounds. DU is 2.5. Spent nuclear fuel.
What can I do for you, Snake? Don't forget to save your memories of me, too.
Can't save memories even on that system of yours. Memories are fragile things. After you reduce them to binary numbers and send them through the air, they're not memories anymore.
I wouldn't be so sure of that. There's nothing my system can't do.
Memories aren't just sounds and pictures. They exist somewhere between the sounds, between the picture.
I don't get it. Anything can be done digitally.
If that's true, why don't you go ahead and try to say what I'm thinking right now?
I can't save that type of thing. You have to put it into words at least.
That's right. And that's what memories are. Wordless.
I don't know about that.
No matter how far data technology advances, you'll never be able to penetrate the human heart.
You're wrong. It's just a matter of time.
But first you have to try to understand human emotions, Mei Ling.
And how do I do that?
You have to allow yourself to fall in love with someone.
Snake, it's me again.
How's it going?
Not bad. I just got past his 3rd security level. He was a pretty careful guy.
Do you think you'll break in soon?
I never met a system I couldn't bust into.
Okay, keep trying. got past security?
Bingo!
Great. So what do you got?
I accessed the confidential Metal Gear file.
So what about the PAL override system that Baker talked about?
I haven't found it yet.
That's what I need to know.
But Snake, I found something else.
What?
The secret behind the new nuclear weapon. Just as I thought, the nuclear warhead is designed to be fired from the railgun like a projectile. It doesn't use fuel, so it isn't considered a missile. That way it can get around all sorts of international treaties.
Pretty sneaky.
Yes, but effective. And that's not even the scariest thing about this weapon.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
It's a stealth weapon.
You mean it won't show up on radar?
Yeah. The truth is, they've been working on a stealth missile since the late 70s.
Why weren't they able to develop one until now?
Because of the missile rocket propulsion system, it would be picked up by enemy satellites.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
But unlike a missile, the railgun doesn't burn any propellant, so it can't be detected by any current ballistic missile detection systems.
An invisible nuclear warhead.
Totally impossible to intercept. And on top of that, it's got a surface-piercing warhead designed to penetrate hardened underground bases.
Yeah, we learned that lesson in the Gulf War.
This thing could mean the end of the world.
It's the ultimate weapon. And from a political point of view, it avoids the problem of nuclear reduction and nuclear inspections. Colonel, is this true? Are you listening?
I'm listening.
If word of this got out, it could delay the signing of the START 3 treaty and cause a huge international incident.
Yeah, it would be nasty. The United States would be denounced by the UN. It could even bring the president down.
Did you know this, Colonel?
I'm sorry.
You changed, Colonel.
I won't make any excuses.
Snake, listen to me. This new nuclear weapon, it's never actually been tested, only simulated.
You mean they ran a computer model?
Yeah, that's why they were conducting this exercise. They needed to get actual experimental data to back up the simulation.
What were the results of the exercise?
It looks like it went better than they hoped for, but I can't find the data anywhere on this network. You'd think that data as important as that would be carefully recorded.
It was. President Baker gave me an optical disc with all of the test data.
What? Do you still have it?
No. Ocelot took it from me.
The terrorists have replaced the dummy warhead with a real warhead. Once they input the detonation codes, they should be ready to launch.
So you think they can do it?
Well, the dummy warhead was designed to be identical to the real thing, so I think so.
Did you find out how to override it yet?
Not yet. It must be in a separate file. Right now I'm looking through all of Baker's personal files.
We're counting on you.
Snake!
Did you find it?
No, I haven't found out about the override system yet. But I found Baker's ulterior motive.
He's just looking to get rich, isn't he?
Well, that's part of it. Armstech is in much worse financial trouble than I thought.
I know they lost their bid to make the next generation fighter jet. That plus the reduction in SDI spending.
It looks like there was even some talk of a hostile takeover.
Everything was riding on this project, I guess.
And it looks like we were paying a lot of bribe money to the DARPA chief.
Bribe money, huh?
Yeah, and Baker was a big proponent of the nuclear deterrent theory.
I see. So anyway, what about the override?
Just give me a little bit longer.
Okay, I've entered the PAL codes and disengaged the safety device. We can launch anytime.
There's still no response from Washington. It looks like we'll have to show them that we mean business.
Should I set it for Cherniton, Russia?
No. There's been a change. The new target is Locknor, China.
Why, boss?
I'm sure neither you nor Mr. Golukovich would really like to see a nuclear bomb dropped on your motherland, right?
Liquid.
But why? There's nothing there.
Wrong. It's a nuclear test site.
A nuclear test site?
If we nuke a major population center, the game's over. But a nuclear explosion at a test site can still be concealed from the public. Meanwhile, Washington will be worried about the retaliatory strike from China.
That'll probably mean top-secret talks between both countries' leaders.
Of course. And in the process, the President will be forced to divulge the existence of a new and highly destabilizing nuclear weapon to the Chinese. What do you think that will do to the US's reputation? Or the President's?
And with the CTBT, that means that China and India... I see.
Yes. When the other countries hear about this new weapon, they'll all want to contact us. Washington won't be very happy when we start selling their own system to the highest bidders. Yes, the President will break. He will give in to our demands.
Big Boss's DNA and $1 billion.
$1 billion?
That money will be used to cure our genome soldiers as well. I'm also including the Fox-Die vaccine in our demands.
Fox-Die? It killed Octopus and the Armstech president. So it's true that it affects older people first. Mantis might not have been affected because he wore a mask.
Wolf wasn't infected either. Perhaps due to those tranquilizers she always took.
Something to do with the adrenaline level in the blood. Or maybe it's just because this Fox-Die was still experimental and they haven't worked out all the bugs yet.
In any case, have you heard from your friend, Colonel Sergei Golukovich, at the Spetsnaz?
He still has doubts about the ability of Metal Gear. He said we can talk after Metal Gear's test launch is successful.
He's a very prudent man.
There's nothing to worry about. The Colonel wants Metal Gear and a new nuclear weapon so bad he can taste it. If Russia wants to regain its position as a military superpower, they need to reinforce their nuclear arsenal. They need a nuclear weapon that can't be intercepted. Metal Gear will allow them to gain first strike capability over the rest of the world.
Their regular army is in shambles, and they think they can restore their country's military power with nuclear weapons? Golukovich, he's no warrior. He's a politician.
But he's the one who gave us the Hind and most of our other heavy firepower.
He's got over 1,000 soldiers under his command. If we join forces, we could put up quite a resistance here. Since Mantis died, the genome soldiers' brainwashing has started to wear off. I'm worried about the men's morale. An alliance with the Russians would boost that as well.
What are you saying?
We're not going anywhere. We're going to dig in here.
We could still escape.
We've got the most powerful weapon ever made, and we're about to ally with Golukovich's forces.
Are you going to fight the whole world?
And what's wrong with that? We can launch a nuclear warhead at any target on this planet. A nuclear warhead invisible to radar. And on top of that, this base is full of spare nuclear warheads. Once we get the DNA and the money, the world will be ours!
What about your promise to Colonel Golukovich?
I have no interest in the revival of Mother Russia.
You're not thinking of reviving Big Boss's dream.
From today, call this place Outer Heaven.
Big Boss's dream.
But boss, you're not worried about the PAL being overridden. If the code is entered again, it'll be deactivated.
No need to worry. The DARPA chief and the Armstech president are both dead.
Does Snake know how the override system works?
You interrogated him, don't you know?
He didn't have any keys on him.
Good. Then no one can stop Metal Gear now.
By the way, what should we do with that woman? Want me to kill her?
Let her live. She's Campbell's niece, and Snake cares for her. We'll keep her as our ace in the hole.
Meryl, she's alive.
Snake, I found Baker's top-secret files.
Great job.
How's it going there?
They've finished inputting the PAL codes. So how do we deactivate them?
Okay, you see the override system that the President was talking about? It can also be used to input the detonation codes. You see, if you insert the keys when the warhead is active, you deactivate it. And if you insert them when it's inactive, it becomes activated. And you can only use the keys once.
Only once, huh?
Yeah, you better get started. We don't have much time.
But it takes 3 keys, right? I've only got one of them.
Hold on a minute. You see, that's the trick. You already have all 3 keys.
What are you talking about?
The card key is made of a shape memory alloy.
Shape memory alloy?
Yes. It's a material that changes shape at different temperatures. The key is made out of it.
This card key?
Yeah. The card key changes shape at different temperatures.
So this key is actually 3 keys in one. Clever.
Can you see the input of the control room?
I see them.
Those 3 laptop terminals are for the emergency input. There should be a symbol on each screen. Each symbol corresponds to a different key. Input the keys in order from left to right. The left one's for the room temperature key. See the symbol? Next to that goes the low temperature key. The one on the right is the high temperature key.
Okay, I got it. First, I change the shape of the card, and then I input them in order, right?
That's right. All you do is insert the card keys. After you insert the key into the module, a hard disk reads the information contained on it. Once you've finished with all 3 terminals, the code input process is complete. But here's the thing. You can only use the key 3 times. It's an emergency system. It's only meant to be used once.
The world is riding on that key, Snake.
Who's that? Damn! The key fell in the drainage ditch.
Snake! This is bulletproof glass. There's no way in. I'll enjoy watching you die.
Snake, you've got to get that key.
You caught Snake? Snake, in China they say, when walking through a melon patch, don't adjust your sandals. That means that when things get really bad, you have to try to remember what's important. Keep things in the proper perspective, okay?
The terrorists are finished inputting the detonation codes. The only way to stop the launch now is to re-input the detonation codes to lock the detonation mechanism. You need that key to do it. Find that key, Snake. There's no other way.
There is a big difference between conventional weapons and weapons of mass destruction. Conventional weapons are intended for use against military targets, but nuclear weapons are used against non-combatants. Nukes are designed to kill tens of thousands of innocent civilians in a flash. That is why nuclear weapons are so evil. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. That is why the world must never forget Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Nuclear weapons are destructive enough to kill every living thing on Earth, and to render the planet uninhabitable for tens of thousands of years. In the history of mankind, there has never been a weapon created which was not later used. If we do not do something, we are just going to blow ourselves up. There's no doubt about it. As long as nuclear weapons exist, we have the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads. Nuclear weapons are destructive enough to kill every living thing on Earth, and to render the planet uninhabitable for tens of thousands of years. There is only one effective use for nuclear waste: military applications. You see, after chemical reprocessing, they can separate plutonium from the nuclear waste. Nuclear weapons normally use military-grade plutonium-239 with a purity of 93 to 94%. It is made in special nuclear reactors designed for military applications. On the other hand, the plutonium in spent nuclear fuel only has a purity of about 60%. But that does not mean that spent nuclear fuel cannot be used for military applications. America has been successful in tests using weapons made from nuclear reactor-grade plutonium. That means that eventually, everyone will be able to make nuclear weapons from plutonium separated from spent nuclear fuel. Anytime fuel is burned in a nuclear reactor, it will always produce, as a waste product, some spent fuel mixed with highly toxic radioactive compounds. Spent nuclear fuel stays radioactive for 300 years. In other words, this material will remain lethal for the next 3 centuries. In the history of mankind, there has never been a weapon created which was not later used. If we do not do something, we are just going to blow ourselves up. There's no doubt about it. As long as nuclear weapons exist, we have the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads. There is only one effective use for nuclear waste: military applications. You see, after chemical reprocessing, they can separate plutonium from the nuclear waste. Nuclear weapons normally use military-grade plutonium-239 with a purity of 93 to 94%. It is made in special nuclear reactors designed for military applications. On the other hand, the plutonium in spent nuclear fuel only has a purity of about 60%. But that does not mean that spent nuclear fuel cannot be used for military applications. America has been successful in tests using weapons made from nuclear reactor-grade plutonium. That means that eventually, everyone will be able to make nuclear weapons from plutonium separated from spent nuclear fuel. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. That is why the world must never forget Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There was a time when we thought it was safe to seal nuclear waste in special containers and bury it in a layer of rock salt without much exposure to underground water. Even though we now know there are big problems with that, we still do not have an effective disposal solution. Most of the nuclear waste we produce is just shoved underground with no intention of ever processing it. It is like an ostrich with its head in the sand. No. There is a big difference between conventional weapons and weapons of mass destruction. Conventional weapons are intended for use against military targets, but nuclear weapons are used against non-combatants. Nukes are designed to kill tens of thousands of innocent civilians in a flash. That is why nuclear weapons are so evil. In the history of mankind, there has never been a weapon created which was not later used. If we do not do something, we are just going to blow ourselves up. There's no doubt about it. As long as nuclear weapons exist, we have the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads. There is a process which involves mixing the nuclear waste with low-grade uranium to convert it into a mixed oxide fuel for burning in light water reactors, usually in the form of glass logs. But MOX contaminates a nuclear reactor more quickly than low-grade uranium. It is also highly toxic. It is economically unfeasible unless the price of uranium is more than 4 times what it currently is. Not only that, you cannot ignore the danger inherent in transporting the MOX from the processing factories to the nuclear reactors. An accident could lead to radioactive contamination, or the materials could be hijacked by terrorists. No, I do not think MOX could be called a viable solution to the problem of plutonium disposal.
confirmed. Awaiting PAL code number 2.
Okay, that takes care of PAL code number 1. Now, PAL number 2, freeze the key.
What is it, Snake? In China, they say, the snake, knowing itself, strikes swiftly. It means that if you have confidence that what you are doing is part of your true nature, there should be no hesitation. I don't know whether your orders are in your true nature or not, but, Snake, believe in yourself.